Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm super happy to be back in Antwerp, in Flanders, which is kind of my home country. Today, I want to take you on a tour through what we are at with AI-powered development, both how we can help our development process with AI and how we can use AI inside our program. It is a high-level tour. I'm going to start with some tools you probably already know and give you some ideas how to use them better. And then I'm going to dive in tools that maybe you don't know yet. I tested them out for you, so I can tell you which ones work and which ones do not. So just to warm up the room, some stuff you can use ChatGPT for that maybe you didn't think of all the time. For example, creating test data, which what used to be very tedious and now is actually very easy. So I've been working in bioinformatics for a while, drug development. So I take this from my working experience. I'm first going to ask it to create some data. I'm going to copy it here, throw it in ChatGPT. So what I'm asking is to give me some lab result values for a certain protein that could be measured during development of biologics drugs. So things we need to test all the time, or we need to test where I work all the time. And so it cooks me up something that is in a JSON format, and that works probably perfectly well. ChatGPT is really good in writing things in JSON format, for example. The second thing I want to ask is to give me a little front end, that an HTML page that will allow me as a lab physician to store these exact measurement values that it had created just above. And I'm pretty explicit here that I want everything in one file, including styling and everything. And at the moment we click submit, it should make a call to, in this case, localhost lab results with a compound ID. So it's going to be writing for a little while. And as you can see, we have both CSS, HTML, and JavaScript in one. The nice thing in one file is I don't have to puzzle it back together or care about the folder structure too much. And just to show you how well this works, I'm going to throw this. No, no. OK, today, I copied maybe the wrong thing. Just make sure I copy the HTML file. Yeah, there we go. So this is actually functional HTML, and that's the same with a lot of things you can get out of simply ChatGPT, not even the paying version. And this is supposed to work, but I can imagine that it's going to force me to fill out every possible value. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. So it puts all the fields to mandatory, but of course I can reiterate my prompt and ask it to do it again. Typically, when you want to have a lot of code outputted by ChatGPT, it's better to, at some point, redo your entire prompt from scratch, because when you're going to add requests, it gets a bit confused in the end. Something else. Who in the room likes to parse date-time formats and convert them from one to another? OK, me neither. So I want to show you just a quick thing, what you can do with LangChain4j. It's one of these Java libraries that allows you to talk to LLMs really easily with a lot of more tooling around it. I will come back to that later. And I will just show you what we have as a concept of an AI service here, where you just declare, I want this class textutils with one method in it, extract date time from any text. And what's actually going to go to the model here is wrapped in this user message, extract the date and the time from it being the single variable in this case. And we want to have a real local datetime Java object as a return. So yes, the LLM is going to answer in text, but LangChain4j will take care of parsing it to the right format for you, so we can just continue with our real Java object. And then we use this interface as follows. We use AI services.create, which comes with LangChain4j library. We have to specify a model. I specified GPT-4 in this case. And then I have this text utils, and I can say extract datetime from. And the text I'm going to say is 3 days before St. Valentine's Day of 2024, just 15 minutes shy of midnight, Jane, sorry, Jane discovered Jim was more in love with his IDE than with her. It happens to all of us. All right, if I run this, let's have a look. There it goes. So that is indeed 3 days before Valentine. I always need to calculate. 15 minutes shy of midnight. And this is a real local datetime object. And we are done with the parsing work. What else? LLMs are really, really good at creating SQL from our questions if they know the database scheme. So I'm going to show you a small example from the Quarkus LangChain4j integration. They made a video movie selector application. So I'm going to get that on. So there is a database of movies attached. And when we go have a look at localhost here, if it's up, it is up. We have a chatbot. I can zoom, that's cool. And if I ask something like, I want to see a popular fantasy movie from the 90s, so that's just human text. And if we're gonna have a look, what happened in the backend is, I'm not going to zoom because it doesn't want to. Select movie name from movie where the genre like fantasy and the year of release between 1990 included until 2000 not included. Order by votes and take the first one. So this goes to my database, pops up the right movie, and then the LLM gets this movie name back and formulates a proper answer. Popular fantasy from the movie from the 90s is The Matrix. It's funny because it's the one where they say at some point that AI took over the world with not so great consequences. Okay, so let's kill this one. Right. So I just invite you all, when you need to write code, when you need to help writing code, to start thinking meta. So LLM can write unit tests for the code they created themselves. The code they create is like meh. The unit tests they create are like meh, but together it becomes quite a good combo, because if you run the unit tests, then some will fail, some will indicate a problem in the code, some will indicate a problem in the unit tests. And since they're so fast at writing unit tests, they cover so many more paths than I typically do when I write my unit tests. In that sense, I'm really happy when they help me with that. They can score and rank their own solutions. They can invent steps, call other LLMs or themselves again to execute the steps, and they can even know whether a task is suitable for an LLM. So what you see here down the screen is a part of what comes with the LangChain4j framework. It's advanced RAG. So RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, allows you to take your documentation into account when you ask the model for an answer. But you cannot only do your documents, which would be semantic search, which is going to find the meaningful pieces in your documents. You can also go search your SQL database or do a web search. We even support graph databases. And so we have this query router sitting in front of that either you make it something hard-coded, or you make it an LLM that decides, oh, this question, I should rather search it on the web because it's a recent thing, or, oh, this I clearly will find in a database, or maybe I search everywhere. So that's an LLM that can decide, and then can also rewrite the original query for each of those use cases. So you're going to have, of course, like a SQL query is different than what you're going to put into a web search. Then you can have agents, which are basically LLMs that can perform actions, can reason, can maybe iterate a couple of times. That's agents. And you can have agents that call agents. So if you're interested, go to my GitHub repo, which is just github.com/Raes, my name. You will find there a shopping assistant in my repositories. And it has 2 agents in there. The shopping assistant agent that will help the user through my shopping experience by proposing products and also pushing a lot of UI changes based on the steps where the user is in. And in this case, there's also a version where it calls this evil psychologist agent that will take into account the user profile to change the product descriptions and the pricing settings also. And they interact, I think, over HTTP, if I remember well. So have a look if you want to build state machines with LLMs and do weird stuff. There's an example for it. Good. So that was just the warm-up. Now what I want to show you today is very quickly how does AI work, because it's not just LLMs, we can do so much more. How can it help you with your software development and what to watch out for when you do that? How you can build apps with AI and what kind of apps become possible now. And then a little outlook on the future if we will all lose our job. Yeah, I'm Lize. I've started working for Naboo.ai very recently. I will come back to that later because they fit totally in the talk. And I'm also a collaborator of the LangChain4j framework. So I'm really happy always to show people really cool use cases with that. So how does AI work? I'm not going to do the whole explanation. I just liked this GIF. It shows optical character recognition. So simplified, whatever input you have, in this case, a picture of a character, so the pixels, but it can be text, it can be anything else, is put on a lot of nodes, and then it transfers this neural network that you can see here. Of course, LLMs have a lot of more tricks than just a simple neural network like that, but it will propagate through it using the weights. The weights are like how much from the first node goes to the first, from the second layer, and to the second, and so on. So the neural network is this thing without weights. Then you use a lot of training data, you determine the weights that way, and once the weights are determined, then it's called a model, basically. Just have the slide to remind us that the input can be anything. Text, image, heat map, anything you can basically digitalize. And then there's all kind of parallel steps going on. So this is basically a calculation scheme. It has no inherent state. It will not, this thing itself will not steal your data. Everything around might. And then what comes out is also, again, anything. In this case, it's image classification, so we'll get a label, but it can be depth estimates, images, anything, really. It's important to just think shortly, where does the model run? So the ones we typically know, OpenAI models, for example, they run software as a service-wise. That's where you have to care a bit about your data because some other provider gets it in the end, right? If you care a lot about your data privacy or security, you can run it in your private cloud, on-premise, or even locally. There's smaller models that you can run on your laptop. The disadvantage with those is that you only have access to the open source models. There's some quite good ones out there, but as far as I know, not just as good as the commercial ones, of course. To give you an idea what effort goes into creating a model, this is for the star coder model. It's been like a joint effort. This thing is open source. It's a joint effort of a lot of researchers of tens of countries, I think maybe about 1,000 researchers. You see a bit, the last version covers 600 programming languages, but also costed $2.1 million to get trained because you need highly specialized GPUs to train them on. So how can AI help us as software developers? This is the software development lifecycle. So first one would be the analysis and scope of our project. And I hear variations of this quite often, like our customers are so difficult and actually don't know what they want. So we are not out of a job soon because we have to help them understand what they actually want and what's possible. But I think it's the opposite. I think this is exactly what an LLM does super well. If you would prompt it to say, like, turn the user request into proper text specs that they validated, it would actually do a very good job. So looking forward to see applications like that coming, so we don't have to do this tedious work anymore. Then design and architecture, it of course knows more programming languages and paradigms as most of us do, so it is very nice to get inspiration of, unless of course you're confident and comfortable with whatever stack you're using. Then implementation and documentation, that's a big attention point, of course. We spend a lot of our time coding. So I found this a very interesting slide, that by 2030, by next decade, the new most popular programming languages might well be human language. And we start slowly going there by, for example, asking ChatGPT to write our code or commenting things for GitHub Copilot to actually write them for us. I think by 2030, this might well be very true. Now, who of you uses GitHub Copilot or some other coding assistant sometimes? Okay, I would say that's half of the room. I guess then when you use it, you also run into the limitations. The moment you want to call some method on some other class, typically invents something because it has no clue. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But these coding assistants, they are evolving, and people are doing a lot of research to make them better and make them understand your code base better, or throw your entire code base in the context window. There's all kind of approaches. So I think the coding assistants are gonna get way, way, way better, say, in the coming year. I wanted to show this Devox Jenny plugin for the people that don't know about it. It's very nice because it allows you to choose which model runs behind the coding assistant. So I have OpenAI here, but I could also run Olama. And the nice thing is I have an uncensored model running, so if I want really obscene stuff in my code, I can get it. No, but just to say, like, I would rather recommend Phi 3 or something, but like if you're working on a plane or somewhere where with an unstable connection, it's a nice alternative, or if you don't want to throw your code out there to OpenAI or any of the other providers. Also, there's super nice cost calculations here, and if you use a model with a huge context window, you can really throw your entire code base in there. It's very nice. Good. My personal favorite is Cursor. Who has heard about Cursor? Okay, that starts to be some people. I will quickly show you what it does. So it is a VS Code clone. And I don't know how they do it, but it's already out there for maybe a year. And they do a really good job, much better than GitHub Copilot, I must say. So I have here, let me show you what I have. I have this application. It's a feedback analyzer that uses AI internally, but it doesn't matter now for the example. And I have a couple of fields there. And they then are transmitted throughout my code, because afterwards I get to see the analysis of it, and then I also need these fields again. And I want to add a field profession, I think after gender. So I'm just, I say I want to add field profession to the web form right after gender, exactly. And I want to use this profession value throughout the rest of my app, just like gender is used further on. Make sure to give the answers in apply div format. That's a little tip from me. If you ask for apply div format, it gets really easy to apply the changes. So it's now reading files because I sent my entire code base along with my question, which in this case is needed because I know that this field profession will have to appear in a lot of my classes. Typically, this is sad. I will have to upgrade to Pro. I think I pushed the limits this morning already. Typically, this is really quite fast. In 5 seconds or so, you get a whole list. There we go. Yeah. So. Okay, I should upgrade, I think. Good. It's saying me, add this field to the web form. Here are the necessary changes. Sadly, it is not telling me in this case in which file. Often it actually does, but I guess it's going to be in the HTML file. And then I can choose apply div. I hope it was the right file, otherwise it's gonna be messy. Okay, so yeah, as you see it added here to get the profession, like basically everywhere in the list with the other ones, it's gonna add it, and then I can choose to accept or reject. And the nice thing is this is gonna be hard if it doesn't tell me the file names. Okay, it's. Aha, okay, great, good, thank you. User feedback, let's see. Okay, normally it gives you a clickable link. Maybe I should add this to my prompt. Feedback, user feedback, here. Yeah, so anyway, this is how it works, and it is doing a really good job. So when I have to add a real big chunk of functionality to my applications, I go to Cursor. Just know that for setting up your project, it's not ideal, because it can create all the files you will need, but it will put them all in root, so the thing will totally not work with Maven or Gradle. So yeah, that's Cursor. So what I typically do is I set it up in IntelliJ where I'm used to it. Then I import it in Cursor, let it do all the AI magic, then throw it back in IntelliJ to continue working on it. But this one has saved me a lot of time, I must say. There's also the thing called Devin that you may have heard of, the scary coding agent that would take over our jobs. That scored not so great on solving some coding programs. What you have to know, there's also a free version, open source version, which is called SWE Agent. You can find it on GitHub. Now, this was half a year ago or so. In the meantime, Devin has published these statistics. Basically, when it uses o1 Mini, the latest OpenAI model, it gets much better until, yeah, they added some stuff. So they're collaborating with OpenAI now, so they can make us pay for it. I of course, don't know how this SW agent is catching up. It's worth having a look on YouTube to see how it works. It's quite impressive because it can search through your code, it can scroll in files, and you actually see it doing it like a real developer would actually go search in there. Replit is the new kit on the block that got really very popular, so I thought, great, for all my demos for DevOps Belgium, I'm just gonna pay Replit, and then they will code it for me. So first thing I asked was write me some shopping agent or shopping assistant with Java backend and HTML frontend. Told me, sorry, we only do Python and JavaScript. So just so you know, before you spend your money on it, for Python and JavaScript, it works quite well. I guess they will extend it to Java later, I hope so. It works very well for standard use cases. So if I had wanted just a web shop, it's super nice because I gave some specs, and it even said like, oh, should we add user authentication and database persistence and everything? And I was like, yeah, that's super cool. And I'm pretty convinced that it will do a good job because these are standard parts. But then I let it do the Python version here. The moment I started to asking something special, like, oh, in this case, add a chatbot and let it use LangChain and call something else, it started getting confused completely. It was like, did not work at all. So for standard use cases, it's super great in Python and JavaScript for now. Hope they extend the functionality. So the thing what it does actually, it writes your code, and then it pops up your HTML there, and it asks like, yeah, does it work? Click it, does it do what you want? And then you can give a feedback, and then it will update it. It's also not super fast, so you need to kind of stay concentrated and wait for it to be done, just like another thing that's not super nice. Some stuff you can add on your GitHub repositories. CodeRabbit AI, this one will do automatic pull request review for you, and sometimes even give an apply diff to fix it. And the nice thing is that CodeRabbit typically finds some stuff that I didn't find, and I find some stuff that CodeRabbit didn't find, and I find we're a good combo in getting better code quality. Dozybot is also interesting if you have a GitHub repository with issues on. When you didn't answer in a certain amount of hours, Dozybot will try to formulate an answer looking at your code base. And it's doing sometimes a remarkably good job. So that's feedback I got from the people in the repository, that like this one about Vertex AI was really not an obvious one to find, and Dozybot really put people on the right track there. Okay, when it comes to documentation, yeah, exactly. Anyway, so documentation is one of these things where I believe AI can have a huge impact. Like, you're changing code, AI could just say like, hey, you're changing this functionality. Would you want to update your documentation? Or you added a new feature or on your pull request. It would be so easy. I'm waiting for the application to do it. So if you know of one, let me know. Really interesting to learn, but it's going to come. Documentation is going to get so much better. That's about the implementation part. When it comes to testing, of course, it can help you generate unit tests. You will need to review them a bit. It can also help you write integration tests. So what LLMs are so good at is transforming one want that is formulated in natural language to some schematic language, and in that sense, saying, hey, I want a selenium test that clicks around here, 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 here. It can even take an image in these days, ChatGPT. Then it can really easily write selenium code for you, which is like, again, a huge time saver, because we know very well what we want to happen. It's just the writing that takes a lot of time there. And also for generating synthetic test data. So you're also not in problem with, like, for example, we needed clinical data to test on, and it's really hard to get on. There's a lot of data privacy rules, and if you can just mimic it with an LLM, that is super nice. So there's already whole businesses created just around generating test data with AI. Then, when we look at this whole software development lifecycle, this is a slide that dates from June, I think. I presented it in DevOps Poland. I said, hey, we could so well break the information silos by doing a joint search over everything we need all the time, tech specs, Jira, code, bug reports, and so on. And after the talk, somebody came to me, and he works at Nabu.ai, and he said, like, hey, that is exactly what we are doing. So I found it. I work there now. So I'm going to also quickly show how much time that can save us. Let me go to the right. So I have this ticket here. We'll just refresh. So this is in Jira. And Nabu is this little plugin here. And I can ask anything I want about this ticket, because it's a bit, there's not much to it. I'm not sure where to start. So if I want to know why we are doing this, filter out nodes from integrations the mapped user has no account in. So what Nabu does, it's gonna go through Jira, GitHub, Confluence, Google Docs, even the Slack discussions, because sometimes you're also discussing these feature changes in Slack. And then it says, like, this is all the information that has to do with it. And there it's defined. And here is pull request about it, and so on. And so you can find related pull requests. You can find the people that worked on it latest, and then message them directly in Slack. So I like it very much, because a study by McKinsey found that knowledge workers search 20% of their time. And I think for us developers, that's at least that, if we get some new tickets to find what were the original tech specs and what was changed and everything, it's a lot of search work. So this makes it so much faster. There are other tools that kind of operate on this entire software development lifecycle, such as Atlassian Rovo. Did somebody use this already? Okay, now I feel less bad, because I also didn't try it out yet. It has a waiting list. It promises to guide you through the whole ticket process and every integration they have, and help you write the code. GitHub Copilot Workspace promised a similar thing. This one I did test out. And so the nice part of it is, well, one, you need a GitHub repo, and it only operates on your main branch. That's something to know before you start. And then you say, I wanted to add the whole ordering and storage of orders in the database for my webshop application. The nice thing I find is the first thing it will do is, what's the current behavior? Because yeah, I make some stubs for like, okay, here I will write it to the database. It's a dummy implementation. And then I forget afterwards what I have written and what I have not written yet. So it tells me like, okay, there's already this method to save orders, but it's not using my user ID, and it assumes client ID and product ID as one. Like, yeah, that's typically me, and it's good to know. Then I know what I have to change. But then the fix it proposed was, yeah, like GitHub Copilot itself, not aware of the whole content. So it gave me first methods that don't exist on some object. I mean, it might have made sense that they exist, but they did not. And then I said, hey, they don't. And then it said, oh, I have a fix for you. Like it was order.get get product name, for example. It wanted to use it. Said, I can fix this for you. Here's your order class. So I had an order class with the client name and address, a total amount spent, and a list of shopping items. Makes sense, right? That's an order. And it just proposes me to add a product name and a quantity, which of course are already in my cart items. So, and I was like, that's very dumb. I'm not going to continue with this one because it's going to not help me at all. At the other hand, I think these tools will get better. I hope a year from now this does a proper job. Okay, so what do you want to be watching out for when writing code with LLMs? This is a nice statement of Kevin Henney. He asks basically, do we really want to reduce our role into debugging legacy code? If we let LLMs write all our code, is this really what we want? That's one. There is this graph about code churn, so that's basically a measure to say the amount of times code has been touched and changed within a certain time frame. So the more you need to go change your code, it's an indication that it was not great quality to start with. Now, I don't like the graph because it's doing some extrapolation from 2022, but it might well be that the code quality goes down. Another thing, AI tools help more experienced developers as well as new developers, but the new developers will learn much less. So when they are used to fix things with AI assistants, the moment you take it away from them, they really don't manage anymore. I heard this from multiple professors that works this way. It's just something to keep in mind. The question again is, how much does it matter if these tools become part of our tool set? Most of us also don't know how to program the languages that are under Java anymore either, and is it a problem? Then, yeah, resources and climate. I read a nice tweet by Mario Fusco that at Devox there are like two types of talks. There's the one that want to save the planet by making, sparing every nanosecond and reducing computation costs massively. And then there's the other type of talks about AI that just like don't care at all and want to spend just billions and billions on coding. So it's something to keep in mind that when you don't need AI, that's maybe a good thing to not use it because it is costly. On the other hand, the trends are very interesting because we get smaller and smaller models with better and better quality. Like these Phi 3 and Llama 3, they are about 3 to 4 gigabytes big still, and the smaller they are, also the less costly to let them run. Now, they are not at the level of these big commercial models yet, but the progress is huge in the field. And then at my former company, we were trying to serve code completions with a local model, and then it's about 200 watt for about 200 devs to serve them code completions throughout the day, which is not exaggerated, and which in the end saves them time. But then again, we also know the more efficient we get at something, it's not that we're going to code less and we're going to switch our computer off, we're just going to code more. So that's this other rule in life. Now, will AI solve all of your problems? Basically, is it like duct tape, which also solves all our problems? So it seems that duct tape is great because you can paint your car with it, you can make a nice bra with it, you can fix planes with it, and then they can go to the moon, or it's also a great parenting hack. But nonetheless, duct tape is not the solution to every problem. It's the same for AI, right? So there's really good stuff we already have, compilers and linters and so on. They're doing a really good job. We don't have to throw AI at everything because it's going to be costly as well. So as of today, what you can use it for very well is write boilerplate code, like end-user code that doesn't have too much branches in other classes. That's really well for testing and test data generation. Any help you need with something new, you get to dive into. I mean, I can ask it dumb questions all the time without anybody judging me. I love that. And then integrated search over big amounts of data. That's working really well already today. It's not good enough for changes to spiderweb code, so whenever it goes to many different classes, it fails at the moment, except maybe mid-cursor. Yeah, refactoring, it's for the same reason. It's a complete mess. I read lately that they had an AI-powered refactoring application, and I was like, that's the worst idea ever, right? You're sure it's not going to do exactly the same. And then, yeah, generating complex code over multiple classes. Anything that's really complex. Today, not yet, but I am sure this will come. Now, when you want to build applications that use AI in Java, then specifically, here is an AI application stack. So there's this data layer, because data scientists spend a lot of time gathering this data, cleaning it up and everything. Then there's the model layer, where they use the data to train and build models. And then there's the application layer, where we typically operate. Now, who of you is a data scientist? Wow, 0. Okay, me neither. So that's why I propose that we as software developers, we stay in our DevOps cycle, and we just use these models as an API, and we let the data science take care of building the models and training the models and gathering the data and everything. So when we use models as an API, we have already a lot of choice from existing models that run a bit everywhere. And then frameworks like LangChain4j, Semantic Kernel, or Spring AI allow you to really easily connect to those different model providers. And what we have today, typically it will be an LLM in the middle when we're working with code, but it can be anything in theory. The tooling we have around it already is that it can go search in your documents, which is called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, but it can also search the web, it can search a database. You can give it general instructions, which are in the system message in the case of LangChain4j, but every framework has their way of allowing you to specify how a model should behave if it wants to listen. We add memory tooling around it, because as you saw, these models themselves, they don't have a memory, just the calculation passes through, so we have to manage this. And very interesting, we have function calling, which turns them a bit into agents. Function calling tells an LLM, hey, you have these methods available, and we need these variables, and you're going to get this output. And then the LLM will know when to call them. Sometimes call them in parallel, sometimes call them sequentially, depending on what you asked. And you're going to run this code with the variables you got from the LLM, going to send the answer back, and it's going to give the LLM, in the end, it's going to give you a very nice, clean answer, taking into account everything it got from the tools. That makes it really, really interesting, and I find totally underexploited today, because everybody's still in the chatbots, but you can do so much more already. Again, I want you to remember that we are building the applications around models that can do, in theory, everything. So the one on the left there, it's a hair prediction model that will predict how your hair will fall. And that sounds ridiculous, but then if you know that Disney has a whole section of people working for months on just having the hair look naturally, this is a game changer. And then again, these models themselves, data engineers are really good at popping out models, throwing them on Hugging Face or publishing the weights. Well, we need somebody like us to build an application around it so normal people can use them too. The other example is depth anything. You send in an image or a video and it will predict all the depth values. Again, this has a whole range of applications if we think creative enough. Also things I'm very enthusiastic about it is the progress in medicine. So breast cancer detection, AI is already surpassing humans in there. They can predict it much earlier on. And then Alpha Proteo came out a couple of weeks ago. It's like the follow-up from AlphaFold. So AlphaFold, if you remember from Google, it predicted how proteins will fold, which is very complex and very costly to measure in real life, and it predicts this with about 90% accuracy. Now Alpha Proteo goes a step further. It says you have a protein, for example, something that defines a disease, and they will design a sequence that fits on it, being the drug that will may cure it. Now, it's then still very complex to figure out if this drug will actually work. But again, this is a huge step forward in medicine. Again, let's hope they publish this and that we can build super nice applications around it for biologists, for example. Now, how will we call these models? From Java. So typically we do it via an API, basically a curl call. You can have it wrapped in a library, so you don't have to write this all manually. There are other things like web GPU, just so you're aware. You can run from JavaScript this web GPU, which will use any GPU that's available on the user's machine. I don't know if they will be really happy if you warm up their laptop like that, but it is possible, so you don't even need a backend for that. or it can use also your CPU as usual. And then, like, if you want to have direct GPU access in Java to run models more efficiently locally, there's a lot of project going on that make this much easier. So Project Panama for this native calls, Tornado VM, and then Project Loom, which is really interesting because typically calls to LLMs take quite some time, 1 to 10 seconds, and if you have a lot of them to do, you don't want to have them serial, you want to have them all run in parallel. So virtual threads come in handy too. Now I want to inspire you with this kind of last chapter because we have so many new apps that become possible, and I think we need to think forward there and also start to consult our customers that these things are actually possible. So this is the most obvious one. We can make AI chatbots. At the moment, I don't see any good AI chatbots out there. It's like every time it's very disappointing. I guess you noticed this too. But in theory, if it would be set up well, you could translate web forms into AI chatbots in a nice way to make it much more user-friendly so that my granny can actually understand, because this LLM will adapt to her level. Or like if these are people struggling with a certain language, they can move to another language. If you have a web form with flows like, oh, if you filled in yes at place 2, then skip to question 8 kind of things, AI can manage this completely for you with some state machines, and then you don't have to have everybody fill out the whole thing. You can also make tools for chatbots. So this is my shopping assistant. This is how he's prompted, and it's just saying, you're gonna help your user define products. Once they are sure about which products they want, call get product list. And this will push, it's gonna call store products or something, and it will push the thing to a new state, and so on and so on. I have this version like this, where one LLM takes care of running through all the steps, but I also have the version with a state machine, where it's calling methods that will push it to next state every time. And the interesting thing is that when you have different kind of AI services, it's still the same LLM, but they're prompted differently, you can limit the tools they have access to, and you can limit the scope that they do, so they do this much better, and it's much more secure, and you're sure that it will go through every step. So I will quickly show you this shopping assistant. Again, just to inspire you how you can make sure that LLMs really do what you want and get more complex flows out of it. Let's see. Okay, so this is my web shop. Doesn't want to zoom today. Okay, so I'm gonna say I need chocolate and diapers. Why not? I don't have that many products in my database. Okay, if I want anything else. So this was all the LLM deciding, okay, she seems quite sure we're gonna already put this in her product selection here. I may also want a baby bottle. And I've prompted this to give me the least expensive one. I have more than one baby bottle in the database. Voila, and it's just adding it, and then I can, say, maybe I want 10. So do you want anything else? Like, no thanks. And there's a little AI decider here that asks like, okay, is this final? And if yes, move to the next step. So it then pops up my shopping cart, asks me if I want to place the order. This is again the LLM popping this part of the UI up for me. All right. You can do more than just chatbots. So it's super cool for formatting, parsing, generating stuff, and analyzing stuff. So this is, again, this feedback analyzer example. So what it did is I write some general free feedback, as people usually do, and it's not all about the same topic. So first I have an LLM that's going to split this in coherent topics. That's why we have 2 on the analysis side. So the first one is super interesting examples, and then it also gives it the category, says what type, is it positive, negative. And then the room was a bit chilly. The second one, it's also adding, if it's a problem, I ask it to add some urgency and some impact, like it's going to impact 100% of the people. It's not super bad, 10% severity, etc. And then in the next step, I can analyze all this feedback together. And I also then, again, added a chatbot to go explore more in depth. For example, okay, amongst the negative feedback that was really urgent, what's in there, to get a really good overview of the feedback you're dealing with. And this is nice for getting feedback on your software product, for your company, for your town, for like anything. And this can all be automated. And it was not possible before because you're dealing with human language simply. Okay, just so you know, there's other cool models from Google out there. This is Amy. It's kind of a doctor. And when you let the clinician alone try to diagnose a disease, that's the blue line. When you give them some search help, it gets better. When you let them be helped by Amy, it gets even better. And when it's Amy alone, it does best because it's not biased in the way that the doctor is. I find that very interesting, and I hope they also, again, make this public so we can actually use this. The nice thing on top of it is that also on empathy, for example, it scores better than your doctor because it doesn't have a bad day. And if you ask it stupid questions, it doesn't get annoyed, I think. So what does the future hold? We see that the models get a higher quality while their size and costs are dropping. There's much less hallucinations. We get like tiny dedicated models for specific tasks, like finding out like, is this user sure? This could be a very, very tiny, super fast model, and it's something that in state machines I foresee will be needed all the time. Scoring models already exist where you have a user question and you have fragments of text and it's going to tell how good they are, and they're super fast, super cost efficient, and they just do that. And we also see AI and LLMs appearing on device. So where are we heading? These are this is the evolution of a number of fields that AI has given a shot at. And human baseline there is at 100%. I guess this is an average human. So image classification took a couple of years to outperform humans, but then basic level reading went faster. Multitask language understanding. Now we're at competition level math that is taking this super quick rise. And so there's this quote, as quickly as the things are moving, each year is likely going to be magnitudes crazier, whether the world is ready or not. It's not going to wait for us to agree. Also, this is an interesting one. This guy was reluctant to try ChatGPT. He got over it and he understands why. Because the value of 90% of his skills just dropped to 0. We all know the feeling. But the leverage for the remaining 10% went up 1,000 times. Who of you has a feeling they get much more done now they have help of AI? Okay. That's, I would say, like a 10%. I invite the rest to just give it a try. Because I also have this feeling I learned so much and I got so much more done than when I could use my 100% skills alone. Now, will AI take our job or not? This in white, you see everything that humans can do. In black is everything that machines can automate. And this has been happening before, right? With the steam engine and a lot of revolutionary inventions that basically stole jobs of people, the people that were working in the black zone. But once you have machines that help us, there's a whole field that becomes possible that was not possible before, and that's the striped field, and it's basically unending, limitless. So yes, we're going to have to shift the skills. But there will always be jobs. There will always be new things that we can do. This is a nice citation from Holly Cummins. But what I find specifically interesting in this article of hers is that she says, we've already gone through so many revolutions as software programmers, where we went from assembly to COBOL and to Java. Then we got compilers. We got things that made us always more efficient and always faster. And instead of needing less and less developers, we've always been needing more and more developers. It's probably going to still be the same thing now because the world's demand for developers seems not saturated yet. So an invite to all of you to build what you love and love what you build so you can help shaping the world you'd like to see. So many new things become possible with AI, very bad things, very good things. I hope you're building very good things with it. Here are my contact data. If you know new cool tools, new cool practices, just let me know. There are 2 other talks I do. One is called Pushing LLMs Over the Edge, where we will explore the limits of the possible. It's pretty entertaining today at, oh, that is 4:30, I think, not 4:40, with Mario Fusco, if I still manage to recognize him. Now he lost his hair. And the other one is tomorrow at 3, Securing LLM-Powered Applications, with Brian Vermeer from SNCC. I think it's a very interesting talk, because once you want to use any of this in an enterprise setting, you have to deal with data privacy and security, and he's really the guy that knows all about it. Apart from that, Antonio Goncalves from Microsoft wrote this book, Understanding LangChain4j. There is one giveaway, the one that, yeah, just try to corrupt me to give it to you, and he can sign it for you. And I have a lot of stickers too. That's it. My time's up. If you have questions, I will be around. You can find me. Thank you very much for your attention.
All systems are nominal. Initialize Genesis.